Chapter 34. Lacrostitutes. Liam rode back to Lambeth with Mitchell balanced over the back wheel. Liam didn't have foot pegs there, he didn't usually have passengers, but the lugs for his trailer hitch worked well enough. It was an extra effort to pedal with Mitchell's added weight, but fortunately most of the ride was downhill. When they reached the workshop door, Liam already knew from Mitchell that Ian had gone with the others to help. It didn't feel like a betrayal by his AI friend as much as a mistake on Liam's own part. Liam should have been with them too. Ian had understood that better than he. That AI really is smarter than I am. Liam and Mitchell stormed into the workshop, Liam animated with newfound resolve. He flipped on the lights and started to gather what tools, devices, and weapons they might need for an apocalyptic battle. Mitchell made a beeline for the clunky tennis ball cannon constructed of PVC piping and soup cans, picking it off the wall and holding it up. "Liam?" "Yeah, it's time." "Woot woot! Holla!" "Don't make me regret agreeing." "You already said it was okay. No take-backsies." "Fine. Don't forget the denatured alcohol. It's in the canister there." "Got it," Mitchell said, grabbing the compression tank and attaching it next to the magazine of a dozen tennis balls. "So you beta tested and calibrated this thing?" Mitchell asked, shifting the strap onto his shoulder. "Mostly." "What kind of airspeed velocity?" "It put a dent in a car door once when I left the safety off. I'm sure it can knock down a few zombies, but demons? I don't know." "Better than nothing, I suppose," Mitchell said, testing the sights. "Careful where you point that," Liam said, grabbing an aluminum bat and a 9-iron, things he had picked up for their scrap value but now might be more useful as blunt objects. "Not sure what good any of these things might be against supernatural beings," he said, stuffing the bat into his backpack and the 9-iron into his belt. "But like you said, Mitch, better than nothing. Hey, where is my Aunt Cece?" "Trying desperately to talk to the Board of Regents, the police, the fire department, anyone who will listen. By her last report, she wasn't having much luck," Mitchell said, scrolling through his text messages. "A demon invasion through a fraternity basement is a bit of a hard sell, I guess." "No kidding." Mitchell swung the tennis ball cannon to his back so it hung over his T-Rex tail. "Liam, you think maybe we should bring the DMA?" As he turned to look over at the trombone case, the T-Rex head bobbed, as if nodding in agreement. "No, it's too dangerous," Liam said, but he couldn't help looking across the workshop to the trombone case. It still sat on its bottom shelf, where he always kept it. Then Liam noticed that something looked off. Just the corner of the case, it wasn't lined up where it had been before where he had left it. Liam wasn't OCD, except about certain things. The DMA was one of them. The observation that the corner of the trombone case was a bit forward led him to notice that the opposite end was a bit too far back. He was growing more than a little suspicious. Liam sprinted across the room, sliding on his knees to the base of the shelves. On this side of the case, those 3 women of color and Barack Obama stared out at him from the cracked and peeling stickers. All 4 of them looked as steely-eyed and determined as ever. Hope. Yes, we can. Out of many, one. Liam was reminded of the phrase Jeannie had left as a coda to her note the morning this all had started, the morning of the fight at McSmiley Rec Center. "We're better together." Liam pulled the case out onto his lap. It was still heavy. That was good. He hefted it up to the countertop and popped the latches to open. He just wanted to make sure. The lid creaked back on its hinges. Set snugly in the felt-lined interior was the gleaming and polished shape of the instrument the case was meant for. A trombone. Jeannie's trombone. Mitchell came alongside him, his face blanched. "It's Jeannie's! They must have taken the DMA!" Liam cursed and slammed the case shut. His stomach was in knots. Sweat broke out on his temples and his armpits. "We need to catch up with them. Where were they going?" "The party at Delta House, but you'll need a costume to get in." Liam's mind raced. There was no time to bother with a frickin' costume. But then again, there was no time to argue with some frat boy playing bouncer at the front door of the frat house. "Mitch, who is scary and dresses normal? Could I just say I'm a serial killer or a terrorist?" Maybe, I guess, but you're not really the type that comes to mind when I think of serial killer. Most are white, you know? Ted Kaczynski or Ted Bundy, Dylan Roof, Tim McVeigh, Nicholas Cruz, Devin Patrick Kelly, Stephen Paddock, Patrick Crusius, Connor Betts, Robert Bowers, Devin Erickson. Liam blinked a few times. Mitchell responded to his wordless stare. What, they're all serial killers, bombers, or mass shooters? Mitch, all those dudes are white. That is what I said! Don't you remember 97% of mass shooters are? We talked about this the night we met. Mitchell cupped his chin, his mouth screwed up into a question. Liam, do you think you could wear whiteface? Now Mitchell paused to scratch his head, his self-examination deepening. Is that offensive to you? I wonder, am I offended by a black kid wearing whiteface? I think, in these circumstances... To his own surprise, Liam found himself suppressing laughter once more. What followed was a sense of amazement, even affection for Mitchell, his ridiculous powers of recall, his penchant for the tangential, and his earnest, irrepressible wokeness. Mitch, you are so damn extra. I'll take that as a compliment. I think in these circumstances, the quality of the costume doesn't matter as much as I make it look like I made an effort, Liam said, grabbing his lab coat and a set of goggles. I'll just go as a mad scientist. Good idea, but not much of a costume, Mitchell said. When Liam gave him a shot of side-eye, he defended himself. What? Let's be real, Liam. That's kind of what you are. Costume not required. Don't deny it. Liam didn't. He grabbed his bag and made his way to the door. Come on, Mitch. Let's go help our friends. They rolled up on the bamboo bike in front of Delta House. This time Mitchell rode in the trailer with their hodgepodge of very possibly useless weapons. Even so, carrying the tennis ball cannon lent Mitchell a certain swagger as he climbed out and sauntered up the walk. Somewhere, even in their hurry, he had found a pair of sunglasses for himself and the T-Rex. Frat Row was a sea of people. The front yard of Delta House was even worse. Liam wished he had brought his air horn or megaphone for the purpose of parting the crowd. Nonetheless, they pushed and shoved a path through as best they could, working their way to the front door, ignoring the shouts of protest and curses from frat brothers over their spilled beer. Since it was an open party among all the Greek organizations, they'd given up on managing the door. There were just too many people. This night was a not-to-be-missed occasion for Gore U students and likely more than a few high schoolers, by the look of some of the younger faces. The result was hundreds, even thousands of partygoers crowding campus. Just more bodies for the demons and devils to possess. The front room of Delta House was awash with the fluorescent glow from black lights. They illuminated thick clouds from a smoke machine. Dance music throbbed, but whoever was working the DJ table was not able to replicate the energy of DJ Mac's spins. Still, the room was even more packed than that last night, when Liam and Mitchell had snuck in with Jax and Gerald. The thought of how that caper had ended caused Liam to break out in a cold sweat, his gut wrenching into levels of nodding he had never thought possible. Focus, Liam. Focus. Got to find the others. He took deep breaths, only to choke on vape, cigarette, and marijuana smoke. Look! Mitchell was tugging on Liam's lab coat and yelling into his ear. It's Troy! Liam followed Mitchell's pointing. It took him a moment to process what he was seeing. Amid the blur of students chatting close to one another or undulating with the music, the girls dressed in revealing versions of slutty vampire, slutty nurse, slutty bumblebee, the guys dressed as pirates, punk rockers, zombies, or zombie hunters, sat Troy. Alone. He was noticeable for his stillness, the way he slouched at the end of a couch next to the punch bowl, staring straight ahead into space, his eyes unfocused, his thoughts a million miles away. Troy was oblivious to the laughing girl, a sexy Despicable Me minion, and her date, a guy dressed as Waldo from Where's Waldo, sitting on the couch next to him. The girl's legs were draped over Waldo's knees. Both of them were holding red Solo cups on the verge of spilling. Troy held his own cup between his legs. He lifted it to drain it, then got a refill from the adjacent bowl, his face going blank again after a few more gulps. Troy also stood out for his complete lack of costume. He looked as if he had just come from church, wearing a pair of pressed chinos, a nondescript button-down, and a lightweight windbreaker. His normally stylishly unkempt hair was flat and combed into place with product. He looked years younger, like a freshman in high school on picture day. Maybe he was making a go at nondescript serial killer next door? But even when the sexy minion girl laughed overly loud, throwing her head back and nearly spilling her drink on him, Troy failed to take notice. It was strange to see Troy so detached from the social scene around him, his expression so guileless. As they crossed the room to him, Liam still wouldn't have even been sure this was Troy had he not been wearing a name tag on the breast of his jacket. It read, "Visitor Pass, Mountain View Psychiatric Hospital." Troy still took no notice of them, even as they came just short of his knees. Liam finally spoke up. Troy! Troy! Hey, where are your friends at?" Troy looked up as if coming out of a trance. His voice was empty of its usual snark. "Huh? Liam Riley, what are you doing here?" It felt surreal to be talking to Troy like a regular person without exchanging insults, without winding up or bracing for a punch. But everything felt surreal these past few days. Liam presumed Troy had just visited his mother in the rehab, the trip knocking loose his entitled frat boy persona into something more core. Troy was a brother and son, worried about his sister, his mother, his whole family. Liam knew a bit about that. He decided to take a chance. He'd meet candor with candor. "Troy, we're here to stop you and your friends from messing with these demons. You all are in way over your heads. You're about to cause an invasion." Troy looked at them blankly. He took another long sip from his solo cup. Liam feared a return of mean Troy, but when he lowered his drink, his face was as vulnerable as before. "Yeah, that stuff has gotten pretty out of hand," he said. Liam and Mitchell couldn't help looking at one another. After their surprise passed, Mitchell said, "Troy, where are—" Before Mitchell could finish his question, a louder voice cut across the din of music and voices. "Troy!" The dancers were tripping over themselves as a horde of new figures barged through the front door. The new arrivals were taking over the front room. It was the Gore U Girls lacrosse team, all of them dressed in identical team jerseys, distinguished only by the numbers emblazoned on their fronts. The jerseys were pulled tight by knots below each girl's breasts and just above their bare midriffs. Their playing shorts had been replaced by skirts that allowed more than liberal glimpses of their butt cheeks. Frat brothers all around were ogling. The girls' legs were bare or in fishnets. All had their hair pinned up in a game day ponytail, but their makeup was garish and heavy with bright rouge, bold blue, or ultraviolet eyeshadow. The last shone in the black light of the dance floor. Each girl had opted for heavy mascara and eyeliner, paired with enormous hoop earrings as big as softballs. Their skin sparkled with glitter that was more appropriate for a cabaret than the playing field. They also had their lacrosse sticks, allowing them to push and shove the partygoers out of their way. They cleared a path to the couch and encircled Troy. A wall of polyester, leather, netted sticks, and copious amounts of spray-tanned cleavage. Mitchell pulled at the cravat around his neck. Liam felt his chest tighten at the sight of Jane and Chelsea. He yanked his mad scientist goggles down from the top of his head in hopes the Rowe sisters wouldn't recognize him. Now he wished he had worn whiteface, if for nothing else to disguise himself further. Mitchell took Liam's cue, shrinking down into his suit and slapping the T-Rex head down over his own. Even the T-Rex in his glasses looked to be trying to go incognito. The minion Waldo couple on the couch were frozen. They looked as if they wished the floor would open up and swallow them out of this awkward showdown. A muscle in Troy's cheek twitched, a bit of mean Troy returning. He sneered as he looked up at Jane, even though, for once, in his cotton button-down and combed hair, Troy resembled the type of nerd the Delta boys or Row girls would usually pick on. "Troy, where's your costume?" Jane asked. "Where the hell have you been? We've got a date with Destiny, you know." Troy ignored her question, asking instead, "Jane, what the hell are you supposed to be?" "Well," Jane said, shifting her weight with a tilt of her hips. She gestured at her sorority sister teammates. "Since you seem so keen on calling us lacrosse-titutes, we decided to embrace the label." Troy looked Jane up and down, then left and right to the other girls. He took in their painted faces, their glittering flanks of toned muscle, the garish makeup. He snorted and took another sip of his punch. Jane moved from one foot to another again, a crease of impatience between her penciled brows. "Not very progressive at all. A good example of how Foucault's reverse discourse turns into internalized repression and a sort of gender false consciousness," Mitchell was whispering to Liam from inside the T-Rex head. Liam stepped on his toes to shut him up. He didn't need a sociology lecture right then. They could not afford to draw attention to themselves, especially considering the powers they had seen Jane and Chelsea display at the detention center. Liam would have backed toward the door to escape had they not been trapped by a ring of angry-looking girls lacrosse players. "I'm done with all that stuff," Troy said, even setting his cup aside. But if Liam had hoped Jane would be thrown off by an argument with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Troy complicated things. He pointed at Liam and Mitchell and said, "Liam Riley and Mitchell Winskill are here to stop you anyway." Fudge sticks. Thanks a lot, Troy. Jane turned, ponytail whipping, finally noticing them. The number on her shirt was 1. Of course it is, Liam thought to himself. Chelsea, number 4, gasped as she recognized Liam and Mitchell. She lifted her lacrosse stick like a spear. It blazed with a blue-white glow like it was charging up with power. That can't be good. Liam got ready to run. All the girls' sticks began to glow, the light concentrating in the netted heads like ball lightning. Nope. Definitely not good. Now the couple on the couch did make a break for the door. The wall of row girls opened up to let them pass. Somehow, Liam knew it wouldn't be so easy for them. Jane, surrounded by her teammates, had no need to raise her own stick. Instead, she looked down at Liam and Mitchell, letting out a derisive laugh. "How did you all get out? And what the hell are you supposed to be?" Jane was looking at Mitchell's costume, not Liam's. Liam felt a surge of protectiveness, quickly followed by a determined calm. By now, Liam was familiar with this feeling. After all, Mitchell was his friend. He would not let these girls hurt Mitchell again. But Mitchell was comfortable facing down Jane. "I'm a velociraptor," he said brightly. "A what?" "Hey, want to see a magic trick?" Mitchell pivoted, slipping off his backpack full of gear. He let it drop to the floor with a thud. Liam wondered if it was wise to part with all they had carried inside of it, but Mitchell seemed to have a plan, even if Liam had no idea what it was. Everyone else looked as confused as Liam felt. Except for Troy, that is. "Yeah, I love magic. Show us the trick, man," Troy said. Liam wasn't sure what was happening. What was Mitchell doing? Didn't he always say magic was the thing he wanted to learn, but didn't have time to? "Mitchell, maybe ixnay on the magic, may." But Mitchell was already into his trick. He had shifted the tennis ball cannon, holding the device out before him and reciting an incantation using a loud magician's stage voice. He was waving both his real arms and his T-Rex ones. It was an ostentatious display of showmanship. "Ladies and gentlemen, behold! Candelabrum cerebellum forsum equalsibus massus time aurum acceleration maximus." Just as it became obvious that Mitchell was stalling, Liam recognized why. Force equals mass times acceleration. With a total of 3 arms waving and flapping about, 2 T-Rex arms and 1 human, it was misdirection in the purest sense. With everyone distracted, Mitchell slipped his free hand down to the handle of the cannon. He pointed it at the nearest row sister, number 11, wedged his finger right into the trigger guard, and pulled. The denatured alcohol combusted. Steam and carbon dioxide vented, and the tennis ball blasted down the barrel. Mitchell seized the forestock with his other hand. T-Rex arms shadowed his own, creating the illusion of a very angry T-Rex in wig and sunglasses, dressed like a 17th century Louis XIV Parisian aristocrat, rocking his head as if moshing at a metal band concert and firing a homemade semi-automatic tennis ball bazooka. Number 11 never stood a chance. People, predictably, started screaming. Half a dozen more bursts followed. The tennis ball cannon sent each of the unlucky lacrostitutes, numbers 4, 7, 18, etc., flying backward as if sucked out an airlock. They knocked their adjacent row sisters aside like human-sized bowling pins. The targeted lacrostitutes kept flying until they smashed into the walls. The impact shattered sheetrock and shook fraternity paddles from their mounts. Partygoers stampeded for the doors. The row girls, not positioned with a wall at their back, but rather windows, got blasted through the panes and into the yard outside. The T-Rex's glasses fell, revealing its maniac Jurassic predator eyes, bulging over those bared carnivorous teeth. "Wow, that is some serious kickback," Mitchell said, catching his breath. His own glasses had gone sideways, his frilly cravat now askew. The dance floor had cleared. The music was playing to a dance floor of clouds. The fog machine had tipped and sent curds of smoke billowing out, cloaking everything in a white haze. Someone crashed into the speakers and the music cut off completely. Liam couldn't help but notice Troy in the midst of the chaos. He was on the couch, slapping his thigh, holding his side, and laughing. He just didn't care anymore. Mitchell fired a few more rounds. He was a thunder lizard tribune of justice, passing judgment on the fraternity brothers, the sorority sisters, the whole Greek system, and he had found them all wanting. My life is so weird. Liam counted. That had to be at least 8 rounds, 4 or so left. Just then, a tremor under their feet shook all of Delta House. The floor heaved. The floor buckled. Even the couch bounced up, catching air as the entirety of the building tilted off its foundations. The punch bowl tipped off the table, shattered and spilled. The DJ table crashed over sideways. The laser lights and mixing deck went dark. Even Troy stopped laughing as he spilled his punch and took hold of the arm of the couch. Everything came down with a clatter. Everyone had been knocked off their feet. "Mitch, what was that? An earthquake?" "The portal! It must be opening!" Liam scrambled to his feet. He wanted to escape before the row girls got up. He turned back to the couch. "Troy, where are the others?" "The others?" "Your brothers, Blaze, Dilworth, Chad, all them, the ones dabbling in all the demon stuff." "They'd be at Concord Quad by now. That's where it's all supposed to go down." Liam grabbed Mitchell just as he fired another tennis ball at a row sister who had recovered. She was coming down on them with her stick, or at least she had been. The blast caught her in the midsection, folded her up, and sent her through the last intact window. A stray bolt of lightning went wide from her stick and blew a hole in the ceiling. When the smoke and dust cleared, they looked up to see a hole. It was big enough that Liam and Mitchell could see the shocked faces of cowering students above. They peered down, looking as stupefied as Liam felt. But there was no time to delay. Liam pulled on Mitchell's arm, his real one, not one of the T-Rex's. "Come on, Judge Dredd, we got to go." Chapter 35. Sunken Garden. Liam and Mitchell ran down the Delta House steps into the yard. If Troy hadn't told them to go to Concord Quad, the glowing swirls of black clouds and the narrow bar of green light standing in the center of it would have been a dead giveaway. "That's got to be the portal," Mitchell said. Students were pointing, laughing, and shouting, confused yet fascinated by what they took for an elaborate laser light display. The wind was picking up, blowing leaves and solo cups around as if a thunderstorm were about to descend on campus. Liam tripped as they reached the bottom step. Delta House was no longer lined up with the sidewalk. The tremors from the portal opening had shaken it right off its foundation. Liam was lucky he tripped because as he went sprawling face down on the lawn, which smelled of spilled beer and urine, a bolt of lightning shot right over his head. It struck the steps behind him, blasting them into smoking fragments. Mitchell launched the last of the tennis balls at the row sister who had fired the lightning bolt. It was number 11 again, the first of the girls he had just defenestrated. But this time she was ready. She snapped her stick into position and caught the speeding tennis ball in the netting. Ball, netting, stick, all blazed phosphorescent with magical power. "Uh-oh," Mitchell said. "Gerald, Gerald, Gerald!" Liam cried out. In a flash, Gerald appeared, floating midair before them, just as the tennis ball came shooting at them. It had been transformed by the Rowe sisters' powers into a flaming blue comet. "Boys!" the demon said, his arms open. "Gerald, watch out!" Liam's warning was too late. The comet struck Gerald, knocking him through the bushes and driving him into the grass of Omega Chi Sigma House. He carved a trough in the turf the length of a tennis court. But Gerald popped up from the crater at the end, smoking but otherwise intact. He shook his head clear, knocked some dirt out of his ears, and said, "Liam, so glad to see you come around." As if to celebrate, he fired off his own bolt of lightning that arced over the ruined hedge. It caught the Rowe sister as she readied a follow-up attack. Gerald fired off a few more to take care of the others who were in the process of recovering. "Sorry about the timing," Liam said as Gerald flapped over to them. "No harm done, boys. We need to get back to Jeannie and the others, though." "They're in the middle of this, aren't they?" Liam asked. "They're not exactly the types to back down from a tussle, are they? Glad to see you're not either." "But Gerald, the DMA, it's dangerous. We can't let them use it," Liam said. "Well, we've got to do something to stop this ingress." "First, we have to get to them," Mitchell said. "Righto, Mitch. Boys, follow me," Gerald said. But as the three of them turned to leave, they could see they had a new problem. The laughter and chatter all around them had ceased. The students had formed a circle around them. These were the same students who, just moments ago, had been conversing, pointing, and staring into the column of light at the southern end of campus. Except now they had gone stock still. They had dropped their vapes, their solo cups, and their phones. Their backs were stiff, their arms loose at their sides. Their faces were slack. Slowly, each turned from the beam of green light — it had grown to the width of a house now — and faced them, their eyes glowing the same eerie color. "Hold on, boys," Gerald said, just before he yanked Liam and Mitchell by their collars. The ground receded from their feet. The yard shrank beneath them, and the space where they had just been standing became overrun with zombified students. "Whoa!" Mitchell cried out as Gerald carried them in a bumpy flight to where the bamboo bike was waiting at the edge of the yard. "You can't apparate us?" Liam asked as Gerald dropped him down in the bike seat. "Well, I was just struck with a plasma ball of shriveling fire, thanks to someone who will remain unnamed," Gerald said, settling into the trailer with Mitchell. "Oops, yeah, sorry," Liam said, settling onto the bike. "Liam, I left the tennis ball cannon on the steps," Mitchell said, but the loud crack of the PVC piping as the zombie students crushed it announced the homemade cannon's fate to all three of them. "It's a casualty now. Better it than us," Gerald said. "Liam, you better start pedaling." Gerald didn't need to say it twice. The zombies had begun to shuffle in their direction. The reassembled team of lacrostitutes was following and even overtaking them. They looked angry. Liam stood on the pedals and pushed. Gerald helped as he could with a magical push. The bike surged forward. "Yippee-ki-yay, mother!" "Gerald, keep it PG back there," Liam said, jamming down on the pedals, the wind rising in his face. "Oh, yes, very sorry. Forgot. Minors present," the demon said, weaving further spells about the wheels of the bike. "Hold on to your britches, then." They rode at a clip, veering around crowds of students, some zombified, some not. Those who weren't zombified were running from those who were. Liam's teeth clattered as they swerved off the paved paths and rumbled through grass. The bike moved as if powered by rockets. They were coming up on Willsbury Quad, fast. Without time to change course, Liam took them down a set of stairs toward the sunken garden. "Hold on!" Liam was able to keep them upright almost to the very bottom. But eventually, after a series of bone-jarring bumps, the bike and trailer flipped and crashed, spilling the three of them onto a brick walkway. It took Liam a moment to catch his breath, his face pressed against the brick, which was surprisingly comfortable compared to the agony the rest of his body was experiencing. "Everyone all right?" Liam coughed, rolling onto his back. "All right is relative," Mitchell groaned from within the T-Rex mask. At least its wild grin was undiminished, even if the side of its head was dented inward, having absorbed much of the force from the impact. "That was some major Delta 5. Mitchell was right. It had been an abrupt change in velocity, and they all felt the pain of it. The bamboo bike and trailer had suffered the worst. The trailer axle was broken. So was the crossbar and the steering stem. A pedal and its arm were missing from the crank. Both wheels were warped closer to ovals now than circles. Liam patted the handlebars, feeling a pang of emotional loss amid all his physical injuries. "It served us well." "We'll have to continue on foot," Mitchell said. "But we're almost to the quad, just need to cut through the rose garden." "Come on, then," Gerald said. "Those row girls chasing us are in good shape." "Their team is consistently ranked in the top 10 nationally," Mitchell said, staggering up, clasping the baseball bat that had rolled out of the trailer. "So yeah, we should move." Liam picked up the 9-iron, hoping it might be useful, but he was not overly optimistic. "This way," Gerald said. "Esmeralda was over here. We'd encountered some resistance earlier." Gerald led them around Farthing Hall and down a final set of stairs into the sunken garden. They ran beneath trellises of rose bushes. Most of their petals were drooping and fallen with the season. A fountain was splashing merrily in the center of the garden. It was a jarring contrast to the carnage around them. Delta brothers, all of them in the black robes of the occult ceremonies, were stretched out, unconscious, like monks that had raided a wine cellar. At the far end of the space, Liam could hear a commotion. Grunts, huffing, the swishing and tearing of fabric. This was followed by the shuffle of feet and cries cut off after what sounded like the impact of wood on bone, like someone receiving a hard clunk on the head. They sprinted the length of the gardens to the eastern end, where they found Esmeralda putting the finishing touches on the last of the Delta brothers. This one frat boy was spinning down from a clonk on the temple, delivered via the end of one of the tonfas clutched in each of Esmeralda's hands. As this last brother fell, Esmeralda somersaulted, landed just behind him, lifted her foot, and gave his rump just enough of a push so that he sprawled gently down onto an adjacent park bench. The brothers spread out there, as if resting after an ultra-marathon or a drinking binge. As he collapsed, Mkali landed on the corner of the bench, letting out a squawk of triumph. "What are you bragging about? I took that one out, silly bird," Esmeralda scowled. "Esmeralda!" "Liam Mitchell! You came!" she said, raising her arms over her head. Yeah, I had to," Liam said, coming alongside her. "Sorry it took me a while to get my head on straight." "Better late than never," Esmeralda said, spinning one of the batons into a sheath on her back. She was dressed in what Liam imagined had been a beaver costume, although the furry mask propped on her head was missing one of its buck teeth, and the remaining one was chipped from what must have been a fierce battle. Both eyes were gone, which maybe was fitting. The floppy tail was intact, though, and bounced as Esmeralda hugged both of them. As she pulled away, Liam said, we have to get to Jeannie and Jax. If they use the DMA, there's no telling what might happen to them." Esmeralda tucked her chin down, her head inclined toward Liam. "It's that dangerous?" "Yes, it killed my dad. It's too unstable. We've never finished testing it." "But it might be the only thing that can close the portal," Gerald said. "We need Ian," Liam insisted. "He's got all the data on the tests. We've got to be careful if we're going to use it." "Ian is with Jeannie and Jax. They went ahead to Concord Quad. I stayed behind to hold off these chumps." Esmeralda towed one of the splayed-out frat boys at her feet. A wild scream sounded from the west end of the garden. Like a band of angry Amazons, their sticks aglow with power, their eyes burning with rage, the Grand Old Republic University women's lacrosse team raced down the slopes into the sunken garden. The bay laurel bushes, the trellises of trumpet vine, Even the park benches stood no chance against the girls. As their powers reached a peak, they obliterated anything in their way to smoldering ash. "Oh, you brought friends," Esmeralda said. Liam's face flushed hot. His pulse hammered in his ears as the girls trampled rows of Brigadoon, French lace, Shakespeare, brandy, Alba, Coco Loco roses, plants his father had once tended. The girls' disregard had grown with their power. Their wayward bolts erupted like veins of lightning discharging from a towering cumulonimbus, incinerating anything they touched. Even the fountain water disappeared in a hiss, transformed by the wall of crackling energy. It made a cloud, from which Liam could see only the girls' flaming sticks and florid eyes as they stampeded closer. "Ranked in the top 10, you said, Mitchell?"
"Yeah, with over 24 state championships."
"How big is a women's lacrosse team, with all its positions?"
12, but it looks like they brought all the backups. Band scrimmage squad, too.
There had to be over 40. And Gerald was right. These girls were in good shape. They had closed the distance and caught up with them with inhuman speed. Liam tightened his grip around the 9-iron as more and more emerged from the wall of steam.
Esmeralda, this might be a good time for the Q-tip,"
Gerald suggested from over their shoulders.
"Right,"
Esmeralda said. She slapped her other baton into its sheath and drew from a pouch on her belt the iPod Gerald had given her earlier.
"The Pez dispenser?"
Mitchell asked, dumbfounded, as he lined up on the other side of Esmeralda. The baseball bat wobbled with the trembling of his arms. Esmeralda laughed.
"That is what you still see, Mitchell. How about now?"
Esmeralda spun what was still an iPod Nano to Liam. It transformed before their eyes. The edges blurred, the shape lengthened. Mitchell's eyes grew wide. Even Liam pushed the goggles up off his face to be sure what he was seeing was right. Esmeralda was now holding a full-sized staff, much like her previous one, but this one was a few inches longer. It had a dark ebony surface etched with runes and adinkra symbols. All the carvings flashed with gold, red, and white light, as if the core of the staff contained a solar flare.
"That's far out,"
Mitchell said. Umkali swooped overhead, screeching his own harsh cry in answer to the approaching horde. The Lammergeier landed on Esmeralda's shoulder as she settled into a battle stance.
"Oh, yeah, you'll get the chance to earn your keep now, silly bird," Esmeralda said to Umkali.
"That is wild," Liam heard himself saying, even as he was aware of the dozens of white girls empowered by dark magic quickly approaching. But it was time to focus. Okay, Ez, we got your back," Liam said, trying to find the right stance for his feet.
Yeah, totally,"
Mitchell said, lifting his bat like a player lining up for a pitch, even if the bat was nearly the length of his body. Esmeralda shook her head.
"No, it's okay, boys. The staff of Dahomey and I got this one."
She spun the new magical staff in her hands, then lowered it to face the closing herd of row girls. In comparison to the flaming death sticks with their crackling lightning, the staff of Dahomey was subtle and understated. The flicker from the incised etchings was faint, but the air around it wavered with the power that it contained, as if warping space-time itself. Liam could feel vibrations emanating from the stick and hitting his chest in waves.
"Which one you gonna start with?"
Mitchell asked, taking a quick last hit of his inhaler before he tossed it aside, empty. "It's like they got the whole practice squad with them. They're pledges, too," Liam said. Mitchell rocked back and forth on his feet as the girls' numbers swelled.
"Let's take assignments. Who do you want me to take, Ez? Number 8, 13, 2? 21 looks a little smaller. I might be able to handle her. Oh, 11, and I have a bit of a history."
"A 5-minute one," Liam pointed out.
"True, but long enough for her to carry a grudge. But don't worry, Ez. We got you. Ride or die."
Esmeralda smiled down at Mitchell. Her expression could only be read as,
"Oh, Mitchell, you are so precious."
Liam half expected Ez to pat his head. But slowly her grin melted into a look of cool, calm ferocity. Liam recognized that look from when she had faced down Cerberus. She took a deep breath and began to spin the staff in an accelerating gyre over her head. The warble it gave off was low, deep, and ominous.
Yeah, Ez,
Liam followed up, his voice cracking as he swallowed a lump. This one had to be cantaloupe-sized. He was growing more than a little desperate to determine their assignments as this final showdown with the Row Girls was about to start. 11 really did look angry and really did look like she was headed right at Mitchell for round 3.
Which one you gonna take?
Esmeralda's voice was low, but her words were crystal clear. Which one? She repeated, cracking her neck, cocking her head, and setting her feet.
Why, all of them, boys!
Her jaw flexed as she angled her head and ears down in the direction of their attackers.
All of them.
Chapter 36. Interference. Esmeralda leapt to meet the advancing team, Umkali flapping out alongside. The bird stretched out his talons to snatch and fling away the girls' lacrosse sticks, disarming a number of them before they even came close enough to engage. Esmeralda, her beaver tail flopping, landed amid the horde. A blast of power from her staff sent the first attackers somersaulting into the air. They landed in the smoking remains of English yew bushes and a corkscrew willow. A few sorority sisters dropped unceremoniously into recycling bins adjacent to the garden. One was even flattened against the 3rd story of Harbin Hall, leaving a co-ed-shaped crater in the brick of the wall as she peeled off. Esmeralda met the strikes from the next attackers, swing for swing. She outmaneuvered and overpowered the girls, Jane and Chelsea among them, using spins, feints, strikes, and jabs. She countered their clumsy attacks with balletic grace and surgical precision. Jane, recovered from initial battering, upped her attack with branching arcs of plasma. Esmeralda caught the forks of lightning on the length of her staff. The new weapon absorbed the power. Then, with a flourish, Esmeralda spun, struck the ground with the staff, and sent out a ripple of energy that knocked the entirety of the team into the air and onto their backs.
Whoa,
Liam, Mitchell, and Gerald said in unison.
I think she's got this,
Mitchell said, when he finally managed to close his mouth.
She just might,
Liam said, knowing it was the understatement of the year. He lowered his 9-iron, resting its head on the ground, feeling that it was most definitely superfluous at this juncture in time.
You bet she does,
Gerald said, tugging on them both.
Come on, I knew the staff of Dahomey was in good hands. That kid has a score to settle with the forces of darkness, and I'm not getting caught in the crossfire.
There was a thunderclap at their backs, presumably from the staff of Dahomey, as more members of Goryu girls' lacrosse team became airborne. Liam and Mitchell continued, climbing the last set of stairs to come up on the northernmost end of Concord Quad. To the south, the quad remained covered in an ever-lowering swirl of clouds, their undersides lit green by the widening column of light. The portal was growing larger. Liam and Mitchell both immediately gagged, nauseated by an overwhelming stench that brought to mind maggot-ridden roadkill baking in the sun.
Oh my God,
Liam said, falling to his knees, pinching his nose and covering his mouth.
What is that smell?
Mitchell gulped, covering his mouth with the crook of his elbow.
Zombies, Gerald said. The shambling kind. The dead reanimated.
Liam didn't want it to be true, but to his horror, he saw that the quad was filling with a crowd of shuffling corpses in all different stages of decomposition. Some were little more than skeletons with the trappings of the period dress they had been buried in. Others were fresher, and those were possibly even more hideous, as the flesh on them was in various stages of decomposing. Their hair fell out in clumps, waxy fat oozed down leg bones, and noxious gases escaped out of flappy rents in their skin. These more recent remains of men and women moved mindlessly along toward the green column of light. They left behind the most gruesome of trails. As their movements tore their graying tissues open, various organs plopped onto the ground in their wake. A few more corpses, these escaped from the med school cadaver lab, were completely naked but in various stages of dissection, their flesh still peeled back by pins and clips placed by med students trying to study muscle groups, nerve branches, and organ clusters. From these corpses came whiffs of chemical preservatives and formaldehyde.
"I'm going to be sick,"
Mitchell said, his face green even without the growing light of the column.
"Me too."
They must have said it too loud, for the closest of the zombies turned. One was a man with brass buttons running down his suit jacket. The jacket had tails, and he was still wearing a top hat and a clouded monocle. As he opened his mouth to let out a hungry groan, his jaw fell clean off. Next to him, a skeleton in a colonial-era tricorn hat and remnants of an actual powdered wig, as opposed to Mitchell's faux one, teetered toward them. This second corpse swung his own humerus bone at them. The still attached scapula flopped about like a poorly fixed axe head. Mitchell vomited. More zombies turned and started their way, zeroing in on the sound of a living human. As they did, the light at the end of the quad pulsed. It had grown as wide as the quad itself, an ever-widening gate.
"It's now or never, boys,"
Gerald said, barreling ahead into the mass of dead bodies like a running back.
"Follow me."
Liam and Mitchell each took shallow breaths and followed, running to keep up with the demon as he cut a trail for them. Gerald shouldered the corpses aside or whacked them with his tail. More than a few barely attached skulls went flying. Vertebrae rained everywhere. When the corpse of an old lady in a flower print dress caught up with Mitchell, grabbing him around the neck, he let out a loud, "Eep! Get her off me! Get her off me!" Mitchell sprinted free of her grasp easily, not realizing that the arm around his neck was no longer attached to its owner.
"You're free, Mitch. You've just, still got a piece of her with you." "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!"
Mitchell babbled, horrified, stopping in his tracks. He spun back around, trembling to offer the arm back to the woman.
Sorry.
He dropped it completely when she took another staggering step toward him, opening her mouth in a loud,
Nope,
Mitchell was saying as he caught up with Liam again. His eyes were now shut tight.
"Oof, Mitchell, watch where you're going. Open your eyes." Nope, he said, taking hold of Liam's sleeve. "That is a whole lot of nope. I don't need to see any more of this. I'm taking a page from Esmeralda's book in this one."
"But you're not a ninja, or really blind."
"I wish I were both, but I'd settle for blind right now."
"Mitchell, stop being ridiculous." Liam wasn't certain Mitchell even heard him, as his voluntarily blind friend was now singing the verses to Tony Bennett's Put on a Happy Face.
"Oh my God, Mitchell,"
Liam said, realizing there was no margin to argue it out. He took hold of Mitchell's arm just as Mitchell was tunelessly insisting gray skies were going to clear up. Liam smashed the 9-iron into what looked to be a rotting member of the clergy. He didn't even want to think about whatever it was that splattered on his face as he did so.
"This way, boys,"
Gerald called out from a few feet ahead.
"Coming."
Liam couldn't really blame Mitchell. The sights around them were out of nightmares. The smells and sounds, too. If Liam could have closed his eyes, plugged his nose and ears, he would have. Mitchell, on the second verse now, had just beaten him to it. Liam kept pulling. Gerald continued, a bowling ball crashing into a set of undead pins.
Now, none of that," he said, pushing the zombies aside. No, there will be no eating of their brains. They are with me. Sorry about your head there. Oh, but look, your friend there seems to have caught it. Isn't that nice? Better get it from him before he begins to eat. Oh, never mind. Hey, Liam, Mitch, you still there?"
Yeah, Liam said, just a little slowed by the voluntarily blind here.
"Think of banana splits and licorice,"
Mitchell sang. Liam tripped over a skull with long white hair. Spotting him, the head bounced after him, its snapping jaw a spring propelling it along.
"Oh my God,"
Liam said in a full-on body shiver. He kicked the head like a soccer ball, shivering again after contact.
"Come on, Mitchell."
They finally cleared the crowd of the dead, passing beneath the Harriet Tubman statue adjacent to Colgan East, Aunt Cece's office building.
"You can open your eyes now, Mitchell."
"Oh, okay," he said, blinking.
"That wasn't so bad."
"For you,"
Liam said, wiping someone else's eye out of his eye. "That is so gross." Deep into the quad, the wind had picked up to a hurricane strength. The rows of honey locust trees were bent low, their branches nearly bare. Topsoil, flower bulbs, even decorative stones were airborne. Broken tree limbs hurled overhead. It made for hard walking. Liam pulled his goggles down to cover his eyes. Mitchell had lost his sunglasses in their scramble past the town's ancestors. Without eye protection, he had to squint from the flying dirt and debris. Liam was not about to offer to lead him again. The T-Rex's head snapped backward and flopped like a broken kite in a storm. The cushion from an office chair flew past their heads, followed by a keyboard, then a clipboard. It felt like the whole world was coming apart, ending. "Where's Jeannie and Jax?" Liam screamed, trying to scan the grounds ahead as mulch bits and grass clippings and pine straw struck his goggles. "Up ahead, in the thick of things." Gerald pointed right at the base of the flagstone terrace at the front of President's Hall. Liam followed his claw to the foot of the giant statue of Lafayette Concord, just where the green light was brightest. Of course, that's where they are. Find the most dangerous spot on campus, maybe the whole world, and Jeannie will be there. As if reading Liam's mind, Mitchell cried out, "Just like Jeannie," Mitchell said. "Not one to back down from a righteous fight." "If we survive this, I'm going to kill her," Liam said. A shingle, floor tile, or something spun in the air and struck one of the campus walkway lamps. The light shattered, sending out a shower of glass and sparks. Somewhere, a transformer blew and Concord Quad was plunged into an even deeper darkness. The faces of the familiar buildings grew sinister and alien. Shadows lengthened, and the building's windows reflected that otherworldly light, that shimmering green glow. Liam could see what looked like 3 monks silhouetted just before the widening green portal. Their robes remained still and undisturbed by the wind, as if they stood protected in the eye of a hurricane. Their hoods were down, but Liam recognized each of them. Dilworth and Chad were holding the 2 spellbooks. It was Blaze who read from them, his arms outstretched like a conductor before a chorus, or a warlock calling forth an army of darkness. Indistinct shapes, more than just clouds or shadows, moved on the other side of the portal of green light. The closer they pushed to the edge, to crossing over, the more they resolved into hideous, monstrous forms. Tails, horns, claws, teeth. Demons. Devils. "They're over here," Gerald said, now holding on to both the boys with his feet against the wind, pointing with one arm and shielding his own face with the other. His ears were flat against his head, his wings beating rapidly to fight the air currents. That was when Liam finally saw Jeannie and Jax. They were at the southeast corner of the lawn. Their duck and iguana costumes were in tatters. The 2 of them hunkered down behind some Japanese barberry bushes, hiding out of sight of the Delta boys, who clearly had decided to see this occult game through to its end, even without their leader, Troy. "Mitch, Liam, over here," Jack said, looking up from the DMA. Mitchell, Liam, and Gerald bobbed and wove, dodging various projectiles of trash, vegetation, and other bits of landscaping to reach Jax and Jeannie. When the boys finally reached them in the cover of the bushes, Jax gave them each a sidearm hug. "Good to see you guys, especially you, Liam. Glad you came around." "Well, you did steal my dark matter array," Liam said, looking over to Jeannie, who actually appeared a bit sheepish underneath the orange duckbill she had pushed up out of her face and into her mass of disheveled hair. "Sorry, Liam. No, it's okay, Jeannie. I get it. I'm sorry I had my head up my ass so long." "Ass, Liam? I thought your dad told you to always keep it PG," Jeannie asked, a smile creeping into the corner of her lips. "What? Ass is in the Bible," Liam shrugged. "It's okay to say it." "Really? Really? This is the time you 2 decide to flirt?" Jax deadpanned. Jeannie's smile grew even further. Liam was surprised how it made him forget about the flying objects, the encroaching zombies, and the widening gates of hell just a frisbee toss away. Mitchell stole Jeannie's signature exhortation. "Focus, people!"
But now it was Ian's voice coming out over his speaker, turned up to full volume over the sound of the storm and the buzz of his own rotors. He swung overhead in dragon configuration once more. "Mr. Liam, it's so good to see you. Outstanding, a pure pleasure. Delightful. Splendid, actually. Stupendous. Salubrious, even." The AI swayed in the wind before anchoring himself to a waving ginkgo tree with his talons. "I'm glad to see you too, you bucket of bolts. Now calm down before you burn out your thesaurus app." "Right, sir. Excellent, sir." "I didn't know he could get so excited," Mitchell said, shoulder to shoulder with Liam. "I didn't either, but he's been surprising me a lot lately." "Liam, we can't even get the array turned on." Jeannie tapped the side of the DMA and demonstrated by flipping the power switch up and down. The displays remained black, the LED lights dead. "Ian, sitrap." "Yes, sir, Mr. Liam. Diagnostics indicate all systems nominal. They should be functioning." Liam took the array in his hands. He turned the refractor dial to its lowest setting and made sure the diodes were carrying minimal loads. This had worked for troubleshooting before. Nothing. "You took them through the proper booting sequence, Ian?" "Yes, sir, Mr. Liam, twice. The safe mode boot, too." "That's not good," Liam said, the floor falling out from under his stomach. He tried to think of some other phenomenon that would have such a system-wide effect. What hadn't they checked? "Ian, are the power cells connected?" "Yes, sir." "Darn it, you're right, Ian, it should work. You're engaged with all the subsystems?" "Indeed. All my frequencies are dedicated to interfacing right now, including all redundant channels." Liam noted that if Ian was connecting with all his channels to the DMA, he would not be uplinked to the mainframe back in Lambeth, the campus Wi-Fi, which was likely down anyway, or the net. Not that any cell phone networks would still be working with all this interference. Liam put his fist to his mouth. A flurry of packing peanuts washed over them in a styrofoam blizzard. Interference. "Liam, what is it?" Jeannie asked. "Just a hunch. Hold on," Liam said. Liam was thinking back to the first time he had met Gerald and the old Arthur C. Clarke he had quoted to the demon. Any sufficiently advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic. Magic, sorcery, in the traditional sense of bending or breaking the laws of nature, all that was unnecessary if the things Gerald had said were true. The mysteries of the universe, extra dimensions, multiverses, demons, devils, angels, and other assorted supernatural beings all just fit into principles of physics humans had yet to discover. Dark matter, dark energy, axions, scalar particles, folded dimensions. The answer had to be here. Liam's father had been close. That first night, Gerald had said he was made of a sort of undiscovered neutrino. Ian, with all his computational power, had failed to figure it out. Ian was logical, his knowledge voluminous, and his empathy growing. But Ian didn't necessarily have intuition or creativity. Yet. Liam did. "Ian, what is the TA reading right now?" Liam looked over to the shimmer of green light in front of President's Hall. He could only speculate what energies were rippling out of the portal in wavelengths they couldn't see. It likely was a veritable firework display beyond the visible spectrum. Ta wouldn't be a measure of sterile, right-handed, or some other undiscovered form of axion or neutrino streaming through the gate, but if supersymmetry theory was correct, some of those undiscovered particles would have counterparts. Even with a cross-section less than 0.0000001 with regular matter in sufficient numbers, Liam was willing to bet that flow would be throwing off the Ta reading. There was bound to be some sort of correlation. 9.961, Ian said. "Wow," Liam said. "That's it." "Does this mean we are being irradiated?" Jax asked. "Am I going to get cancer?" Mitchell asked. "Cancer? You're worried about cancer killing you before all this?" Jeannie waved her hand around in their general vicinity, gesturing at the flying debris, reanimated corpses, warlock frat boys, and encroaching army of devils and demons. "Well, I guess when you put it that way." "To Jax's point," Liam said, "yes, we're being struck with all sorts of particles, but we always are.
These are not the alpha, beta, delta, gamma particles that would kill us. At least, not yet. No, we have other Greek letters to worry about, Jack said with a nod at the Delta boys. Oh, that was clever, Mitchell said, offering a high five. Thanks, Jack said, returning it. Liam shook his head, thankful they were at least dispensing with the usual jazz hand Flappy Bird follow-ups. He had to scream to be heard over the wind. But the particles coming through that gate are enough to short out the startup cycle on the DMA.
So what do we do? Jeannie asked.
Liam still couldn't believe he was turning on the DMA. He couldn't believe he was prepping to fire it with the dial turned up to 11, after all that had happened to his father. But what choice did they have? Ian, start in safe mode again, but route the boot sequence through the secondary and tertiary boards first. Cycle them up, but don't connect them to the CPU. I just want them running at 100% capacity before you do the safe mode boot on the primary board. Yes, sir. Would you like to use the secondary or tertiary boards for the operating systems? That would reduce processing time. No, we're not running any critical processes through them, just getting them running at full power. They'll likely be scrambled anyway, but the primary board is sandwiched between them. If they're on first and running at full capacity, they should provide enough fields of their own to shield the primary board from interference. A plausible hypothesis, sir. Quite commendable. Starting boot sequence as you instructed now, sir. But a safe mode boot through the secondary and tertiary boards will require additional voltage that the power cells do not have. I can wire my own power cells to the DMA to compensate. Do it. Ian's rotors spun to full power as he released his grip on the tree branch. He tucked his head against the wind and extended his rescue clamps to Jeannie. Her hair was a whirling halo above her head. Once he was within reach, Jeannie stretched up and seized Ian's talons. He cut his motors, collapsed his wings to streamline himself, and dropped into her arms. Running, she carried Ian the rest of the way over to the DMA. Liam pointed out the mini winch on Ian's chest that held a USB cable. Jeannie drew it out and plugged it into the DMA. A single red light pulsed on the DMA. Look! Look! Jeannie said, pointing. It's working. Ian, how long will it take? Approximately 12 minutes and 47 seconds, the AI said. The others' faces fell. Sorry, it takes longer in safe mode, and we're booting up 2 boards at once, then a third, Liam apologized. We don't have 12 minutes, Jack said. We don't have 47 seconds, Gerald gulped. 46 now, Mitchell pointed out, to the help of absolutely no one. We need to buy ourselves some time then, Liam said, checking his watch. I'm on it, Mitchell cried. Before any of them could say otherwise, they were looking at the back of the velociraptor, his tail and wig bouncing, his baseball bat raised. He was running away, making an all-out charge for the 3 Delta brothers. Oh no, Jack said. This can only end badly. Ian, keep the boot-up sequence going, Liam yelled over the wind, even as he patted Jeannie on the arm. Don't worry, I'll keep him out of trouble. Me too, Gerald said, zipping after Mitchell, a fat soldier bee off to protect the hive. Just make sure you turn the main power on when Ian says it's time, Liam said to Jeannie and Jax, leaning against the wind and drawing his goggles down. Sure, Jeannie nodded. And Liam, keep my cousin safe. I will. Liam said it. He definitely meant it, even if he wasn't sure it was a promise he could keep.